This morning, I pulled into our driveway after having dropped our son off at camp, and I had had a morning, like we all have mornings, right? I had gotten up like 3 hours earlier, and my son, and breakfast, and a scuffle over that he wanted to go macro bar but hadn't finished his breakfast, and a crying, and then reading and sobbing, and it's okay, and driving, and then pulling into the driveway and pulling out my phone, and I have a text and my credit card bill is due, all these things that we deal with as human beings, right? So I come into the house and I'm in that space that we often find ourselves in, distracted, attention everywhere. And then at the perfect moment, Erwan texts me, "Want to do sensual practices now?" And I was like, yes. And I came down the stairs into our bedroom, and there was a field between us, and a relational field that I could feel. And I noticed, he was back in bed after doing whatever he had been doing in the morning, and I was still thinking. And we were talking about this earlier. We didn't actually say anything. There were no words. I slipped into bed under the covers, and we were holding each other and breathing, and then Erwan put his hand on my back, and I could feel his skin touching my skin, and it had this electric feeling, and I could relax. And as we continued with our sensual practice, I was more and more alive and connected. And by the time we were done, the field within which we both were together was one of total unity and silence and sacredness and turn on and aliveness. It was incredible. And going through the ritual and the practice of this every morning is what allows for that, even with all of the psychological stuff we all deal with.
ChatGPT told me Tantra is a spiritual path that embraces intimacy and connection on a deeper level. I thought, that's pretty smart, actually. Intimacy and connection on a deeper level. What is intimacy and connection on a deeper level? It has something to do with now. All right, it's not theoretical. We are going to do some writing tonight and learn some things, and that's very important, actually. But spirituality in its ultimate sense is it's immediate. It's connection at a deeper level. So Tantra is a spiritual path, that embraces intimacy and connection on a deeper level. It's not about renunciation, right? Tantra includes, partner, straight or gay or left or right or up or down or pink or yellow or blue or whatever. It's very inclusive. And it also includes the heart. And it also includes sexuality, which is interesting, right? Like I'm very interested in that. I lived in a yoga ashram. I was the director. It was fantastic, but there wasn't too much sex going on there. I was like sneaking women into the ashram, believe it or not.
I love the image of that.
Because they had a front door and a back that was like, come on around. And it did blow up in my face at a house meeting. And, that's another story. Those of you in Mastery of Relationship might have heard that story. But Tantra or meditation or spiritual practice or mindfulness, whatever version kind of speaks to you, it has to do with immediacy. It has to do with your immediate experience. Immediacy is the point tonight, and it's immediacy now. So just let yourself sense that. Let yourself feel that. What is immediacy like? We're saying that immediacy is the link between Tantra and intimacy. Immediacy is spirituality in its essence. Has to do with sensitivity, has to do with now. It's also the essence of intimacy. Intimacy has to do with now, right? Alicia and I were married, we went through the ceremony, we have, a house and a child and all kinds of circumstances, but, the intimacy is only now. It's not like at the marriage ceremony 20 years ago. It's not at like, when we're in the old age home and like, somebody's feeding me and I have a catheter on. Do you understand? It's not any of that. It's now. So just let yourself sense that. Just let yourself feel that. Because both Tantra and intimacy, they're immediate. They start with that. That immediacy is your access to life and also your access to a partner, whether you have a partner or don't have a partner. Once we're in immediacy, we're willing to feel, and I can sense that everybody tonight is, to a greater or lesser degree, but to some degree, you're willing to really experience what's going on for you right now. Then there's a sensual awakening, right? Like the senses come online. It's like fine dining, right? Wine tasting or going to a classy restaurant. So what I'd like you to do now is really notice your physical sense of touch. Your sense of hearing. You can hear me, but maybe you can hear things in your room, your living room, your bedroom. Tantra has a lot to do with conscious breathing. Conscious breathing can increase pleasure, relaxation, energetic exchange with a partner. But there's nothing I can say to you that will have you experience that. You have to actually do the conscious breathing. So let yourself breathe consciously, deeper, faster. Letting the breath go from the pelvis all the way up to the chest. So being intimate with yourself is not an idea, it's not a concept, it's actually being intimate with your experience, physically, emotionally, through your heart. And in Tantra, breath awareness is a very powerful way to do that. It's one of the fundamental practices in Tantra. But don't take it on blind faith. Breathe, see what happens. I'm doing it with you. Alicia's doing it with you. Breathe deeper, all the way from your pelvis up to your chest, through your sex center, your body center, your heart center, your mind. If you're with somebody, don't you want them to be in their sex center and their body center and their heart center and their mind? You don't want just their mind or a ghost. Now, tonight's not a class about sexuality, but we are inviting you to include your sex center. Sacred sexuality is a very important part of intimacy in a romantic relationship and a cornerstone of Tantra. Really honor and celebrate sexuality as a practice. You're practicing now. It's very safe. You're in your bedroom or your living room. There's nothing lewd going on. Nobody's exposing parts of their body or anything like that. It's very safe. It's very classy. It's very upright. It's very conscious. And that's a good way to include your sexuality. In Tantra, we call that sacred sexuality. So take a breath into it. Just notice what you're noticing. Let yourself enjoy it, feel it. Another important part of Tantra is ritual, right? Now, ritual sounds so sort of fancy and esoteric, but ritual just means that you're doing it. It just means practice, right? We're practicing here together. Those of us in Master of Relationship, you know, we have a weekly practice together. Most of you have a daily practice. Alicia and I have a set of touching practices. Okay, so just kind of notice, you know, what it's like to, you know, do these practices daily if you're in Master of Relationship or you're dating or you're with a partner and you do them. This is light touch. This is deep touch. There's also explicitly sexual practices like extended orgasm. That's not our focus tonight. This is kind of a classic tantric practice, right? People practicing together, but autonomously. Meditation. Here we're teaching a group that we took to Mexico, one of our favorite places, Mexico. We also teach in Hawaii. Energetic practice with a partner, right? If you're single, that's a pretty good pickup line. Like, hey, you know, I learned these energetic practices and that I can actually sense you and feel you without even touching. Would you like to try that? You know, most people who are good relationship partners will say yes. This is the kind of classic tantric practice called the yab yum posture. The feminine person, whether they're male or female, is sitting in the lap of the masculine person. Now, let's go to intimacy a little bit, because we focused on spiritual practice. Intimacy is being with yourself and another deeply. Right? So it's being with yourself and another deeply. And that's what many of us came here for tonight. First, you have to be with yourself. We focused most of the session on that. The exercise tonight is going to be about being with others. You're going to have an opportunity to practice that. In fact, obviously, we're practicing that now, right? We've kind of brought that in right from the beginning.